Welcome back to the podcast. It's Nina with Passion Squared, and you are not going to fucking believe this. We have a very, very special treat this week, and that is a guest. Someone who I absolutely adore and am inspired by and have been for many, many years. Roxanne is an author, a writer, a storyteller, a content creator, an educator, a small business owner, and just an all around awesome fucking human being. Roxanne, welcome to the podcast.
I want you to follow me, follow me around and introduce me everywhere. That was the best intro I've ever had. Thank you.
I will follow you anywhere.
Oh my
I
gosh, if
will.
I could just have you walk in the door and go, here you go, here's Roxy.
Yeah, and I'll have a little outfit on. Like I think about the squirrels that live in my little forest in my backyard, and I always envision them with those little like top hats and the little like lecterns. You know what I mean? Like I want to be that. I'll be that person.
If I couldn't, you, this just keeps getting more perfect. I cannot imagine a better than you in a squirrel outfit with a lectern in front of you.
Yes,
I
that is.
resonate with squirrels a lot. Like when one of the icebreaker thing, I don't like icebreakers too much, but I ask people what kind of tail would you have if you could have, if you had to have a tail, like a physical tail. And I feel like you can know a lot about people by what kind of tail they would have. And my go-to is a big squirrel tail, you know? Like I want that squirrel energy coming right out of my tush.
Okay, I have a fact that I don't have a lot of facts in my brain, but I did learn something new. Did you know that squirrels use their tails as umbrellas?
Really?
Yes, that is actually a fact. I'm not making that up because I'm in Oregon, so like it rains, 90% of the time. And I get so concerned. I'm like, what's going to happen to the squirrels? I call them all Mr. Squirrels. It's not a gender thing, it's just like a name that I give all of them. And of course I had to get on Google and be like, okay, like how do squirrels protect themselves in this rain? And it's their tail is an umbrella. It's their
See,
umbrella.
one more reason that my choice in tails would be perfect.
That was a good
What
tail
kind of
story.
tail would you have?
I'm kind of with you on the squirrel. They have, yeah, it's so functional. Like it's, and resourceful and useful. Yeah, I would say a tail. It's a squirrel. Squirrels are like my whole identity right now. So I would probably say squirrel. What a great question. Okay. I have so many things to ask you. And for a little bit of context, though, Roxanne just launched her latest book. It's an activity book and journal called Spiritual as Fuck, which is AF, which is your socials brands, a playful, profane, and profound guide to self love, mindfulness, personal reflection, boundary setting, gratitude, and dreaming big. So, we are going to get into the book, which I'm obsessed with. It's so fucking good. But I want to talk to you about you, like outside of the book. So, share with us a little bit about how you became a writer and an author. Like, where did that passion and calling come from?
Oh, that's a great question. I knew I wanted to be a writer my whole life. I one of some of my first memories are learning to write, and some of the only really sweet memories I have of my mother are her teaching me to write. And she taught me to write in this way that letters had personalities of their own, and then they grouped together in families, and then those families had a personality. And so I have this relationship with letters and words and stories and things that where they're actually friends. They're actually they have traits, and like capital G's are really friendly, and I really love putting capital G's and things. And so from like 3 years old, I've been involved with letters, and I love that. And then I was this punk kid living on the streets a lot and getting high really young and really wanting to self-destruct, but also having, a classic English novel in my boot, and it would save me when I felt like I couldn't be here anymore. There's something so wonderful about books and being able to leave your current reality. Or the other thing that I've been obsessed with are books like that talk about personal development and give you tools. And I've always just felt like there's these very inexpensive, easy to get gems out there for just being a human and having to be locked in a body, is how I feel a lot. So
Wow.
that's how that happened. And then I was a counselor for many years. I was a waitress for many years. I was an auto mechanic. I did all this other stuff. And underneath it was I always wanted to be a writer. And I was running these schools that were treatment programs for kids with substance use disorder and a lot of behavioral issues and violence. And I loved it. It was like, no, I don't think anyone thought that I would quit that job. And then I was on a river rafting trip with them. I was in writers groups. I'd taken writers classes my whole life. I was working on a book, but it was just so secondary to everything else that was on my plate. And I was on this river rafting trip, and I got popped out of the boat in the rapids and trapped under the boat. And I had this very light near-death experience. So I was trapped under the boat too long. I panicked. I could have died. It was a very dangerous thing. I hit a rock, all of that, but it wasn't a horrible one. But I was trapped under the boat, and with my face plastered to the bottom of this boat, the only thing I thought about was I didn't write my book. I didn't write the books I wanted to write. And so when I got out from under the boat and I got back in the boat, the thing that I knew was my life was about to change. And then within a few months, I quit my job. And I dedicated myself to building a social media presence, going out and writing proposals. And I just threw myself in because I thought I just always go. I didn't think about that under the boat. That's my saying a lot when I get diverted. Like, what did you think of under the boat?
Wow. I feel like that's like a movie. I think it's time to write a screenplay if you haven't already. So you talked about social media. You've been on the socials a very long time. We've been connected on the socials a very long time. However, in the past few years, you have blown the fuck up on TikTok. Can you uh, share a little bit about what that experience has been like, navigating such a major platform in such a major way?
I spent a lot of years on Instagram and Facebook curating my interests, and my vibe is really, I didn't put my face on there that much. I was really hesitant to put my voice, especially in any videos. And then I got on TikTok and I lurked for months. And then I just started telling stories, and I'm a storyteller. I love that you said I'm a storyteller, because I was like, oh, because in my personal life, I'm a storyteller, but on social media, I wasn't. And I just started entering the conversation, and it blew up. I told a story about, I started telling a story about my childhood, and then people just kept asking questions, and then I just kept telling stories. And then I started speaking about things I care about, and people kept coming to me. So that's the wild thing is I was just coaching somebody today. So I coach creatives on just how to engage authentically and in a life of being a artist, especially writers, to have a good relationship with doing social media. So I was coaching somebody today, and she was like, oh, you just put yourself out there. And I was like, if I would have known 5 years ago that I would be making videos every day and putting my face on, I would have been like, no, there's no possible way. So it's been wild. And, you get a lot, you do have to face the fears that you would have. And I think you probably get that a lot, like where if you put yourself out there, you're going to get people out there giving you their opinions. And so, yeah, so not to reference my own activity book and journal, but one of the reasons I felt like I could write a book like this is because I use I use writing and lists and like being prepared within my own personal like well-being and health. So I made a list of everything I was afraid people were going to say or think about me. And so then when it happened, I would just check. I'd be like, oh, they said I'm fat. Click, I lived. Oh, I'm too old here. I lived. Oh, my teeth are crooked. Oh, oh,
Okay,
I'm starving.
what about
Oh,
your bangs? What about
oh
the
yeah, I did not actually, I wasn't insecure about my bangs, so I didn't know. And then people went for my bangs and they still, now people are going for my bangs because I'm growing them out. And like people are like, no, you can't, you're not a feminist. I'm like,
yeah, so it's always going to be something, right? Right? No
yeah, I was
matter.
not prepared for how much my bangs were going to piss people off.
Yeah, I mean, because they're so fucking cute. Uh, okay, so in when you really started really going heavy on storytelling on TikTok, one of the series you tend to do these like thematic like series, and one of them was seemed to get a lot of pushback, but also a lot of support, and that was your approach to the idea of being nice, or in this case, not being nice. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Um,
Because we as a society are like, be nice and be polite and whatever, and it doesn't cost a thing to be kind, and I'm like, cost a lot of fucking money to be kind, because you have to like do your inside work. But
yeah.
but where did this come from, this being nice, not being nice, and how does that help us?
Mhm.
How does that impact us as humans and business leaders, and
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know even where to start with this. The I pay because I'm a writer and because I was a counselor and I was a leader. I was a director of these schools. I really was focused on creating culture. That's when I started, when I took over the management of these schools and that I'd been a part of, and I could see how we'd gone wrong and how we'd gone right over all these years. And one of the core things that I really thought that would help us was to be very conscious of how we create culture and not just having rules and policies. And so I really focused on words and how we speak and how we think and what do truly matters here. And so a lot of the magic that happened during these years with these schools I ran, where we were extremely successful, it was a beautiful place to be. I've gotten a lot of feedback from the kids, like it was great. Was to really look at words and to really be curious about them. And so there's that with the idea of we did a lot of work within those communities where we would talk about the application of our values. So every week we had this community group where the students and faculty all got together and we would do conflict. We would talk about issues, concerns, we would call people out on their bullshit. So we did this a lot. And then we would have these conversations about like, well, just because you think your intention was good, your application really wasn't its impact, or this idea of like, how do we truly connect with others? How do we engage with our values? And the concept of nice came up a lot. And I didn't want anyone to be nice. I wanted us all to be kind. So that's one thing that we did. We talked a lot about kindness at the school. All of us were working on refining and exchanging our ideas about kindness because kindness was one of the core values. Um, then the other thing is doing my own anti-racist just dismantling white supremacy, and my intersectionality is being a growing up poor and abused in the United States, but being a typically attractive white woman and seeing how there's so much pressure to be pleasing, to navigate people's emotions and especially men's emotions, but also how we use that as a weapon against other people. And I feel like I could see it because I was on the outside because of poverty and because of being weird and being this kid that wasn't getting the benefits of that system. So like there's anyone like middle class, like it's hard to let go of nice because you get so much from it. You get security, you get interconnectedness with people, you get all this stuff. But for me, I was like, I was I was literally raised in like by I was almost literally raised by wolves, like with my
Yes.
life story, right? And then I
Yes.
was just this, out there like in the streets. I was on the outsides, but then I could see there was all this other places I could have all this pressure for being nice. So when I started putting stuff out online, I was just coming from that training and that thing of like, well, I could do something to help my community of people that need to dismantle this niceness thing through this way of going. I worked with teens all the time, and one of the things I saw was that like how indoctrinated young women are to not call things out right in the moment. You wait until it's too late. And so it was, when you're doing self-defense training, it's always like one of the biggest things in self-defense training is just teaching people to say no when you've gotten in too close, and people wait until it's so far gone. And so I just took all that and I told a story of some, I can't even remember the first thing I did, but it was like, what do I do when guys tell me to smile? And then I was like, I look at them and I tell them to shit their pants. Don't be nice. Like, and so it started this thing. And then I just started telling stories about, well, this is what I do when this happened, or this is what happened at this other time. And then it morphed also into this other thing because I grew up in a, I don't, trigger warnings. Like I
Yes.
basically am a trigger warning because of my life.
Yes.
So to say it nicely, I grew up in a very, very sick system where adults were preying on children. And I saw, even within my fringe culture, that how much politeness protected the predators. And so
Yes.
that's one of the things that I really, really like push is on everything I'm saying, polite protects predators, because politeness is a set of rules, and it's a way to make sure everything stays the same. And politeness, this set of rules, not being kind, not addressing dynamics and systems, not addressing the situation at hand, but living by a rule, keeps people in situations that are not that are abusive. And I saw the extreme of it. I saw horrible stuff. I experienced horrible stuff, and then we were, the people in my family would be polite. And one of the first things I put out there was about like, why are you still inviting the creepy uncles to dinners?
Yeah.
Why? What's going on? You want to go out and say all this stuff. So anyways, I know I could talk
Yeah.
forever.
No, no, no. I mean, it's really important. And listening to you, it really, you were talking about this is an extreme example, your actual upbringing. However, we can look at this with business, right? And look at this with clients who are abusive or leaders who are, you know, abusive in whatever way, whether it's verbally or emotionally or whatever. So it trickles down into everything, and it, to me, it ties in so great with healthy boundaries, because
Mhm.
as a codependent, I mean, we want anything but to rock the boat, right? I'll do anything to please you at my despair, right? I will crumble as long as you're happy, as long as you feel comfortable, as long as I don't make you feel uncomfortable. I'm just going to allow this behavior and this abuse of whatever form it is. So it's so important, no matter what anyone's lived experience is, because it comes up everywhere, because like you said, this is our culture. This is our, just the way many of us were raised and what we see around us. So I think it's really, really, really important. I want to talk a little bit about gratitude. I know we just took a major like right turn. Gratitude's a big part of both of our stories. You actually have a grateful AF card deck, yes, which is available. We'll talk about that then. Okay, so I want to talk about gratitude because I also want to dig into a couple pieces of your new book. So, how has gratitude shown up for you in your life with your struggles, with your experiences? Like how is it how does it work for you?
Um, how does it work for me? I so in in the beginning of the deck. So the deck I put out is a gratitude list in a box, and it's one card a day. One side is something to be grateful for. The back side is me exploring that concept, and it's my gratitude list. But what I saw a lot is that people don't, they needed, what I wanted to put out there was help for how to engage with gratitude in a way that is sustainable, to have develop curiosity, to savor things and that. So that's why I put out the list, the box. In the beginning, I tell the story of my relationship with gratitude because I come from where I come from. And when I was told to be grateful, I was not very happy about it, right? There was this,
Same.
and I was like, you're going to tell me? Like, I'm homeless, I'm hungry, I've been abused in every single way. And what do you, what do I have to be grateful for? And I was very mad, and I flipped a table and left the counseling office, and wasn't going to go back. And I had this incredible experience where, because I was a panhandler, and so I went downtown Santa Cruz and I panhandled, and I was out in front of Taco Bell, and I told this woman I was hungry, and she went in and bought me the tacos that I wanted and came out and handed them to me. And I looked up at her because I was sitting on the curb, and I said, "Thank you." And she looked back at me and she's like, "You're welcome." And in that moment, I realized that I had been fed by a lot of people in my life who had no obligation to feed me. And that experience of going, I can hold the beauty of that as well as the sadness and betrayal of the world, that I had to be fed by people who had no obligation to feed me. So one doesn't cancel out the other. And so that helped me navigate gratitude. And before we were really like collectively talking about toxic positivity, I was lucky because I had that experience and I
Mm.
really understood that. And the other part that about my difference with gratitude, and I'm not sure, I can't remember if I put it in the book, but I was partially raised in the wilderness of Alaska, and my dad taught me survival skills. And the number one survival skill is, if you get in a bad situation, look first for what's going for you so you know what you have to work with.
Mm.
And so for me, gratitude is a survival skill. Look first for what you have to work with, so that you know, so that you're not blinded by everything that's going against you, and you can't pick up your tools. You can't see what you have. And so those are my like two things with gratitude that I hope I'm offering people as I'm putting it out there in this kind of barfy world of gratitude that we
I
live.
know, I know. I have to be really careful because gratitude. I say gratitude saved my life, and that's true. In 2007, when I walked into treatment, they would not let us enter group without our list being done. It was five, gratitudes, and for someone who had the greatest life in the world and like everything going for me, I literally, I mean, I was at a pretty low point, but I was frustrated and like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I am not well and you want me to be grateful. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, I was, bitter. And so, like, I think my first list was like ice because my rehab had the most amazing ice, the soft, I call it rehab ice, but it's like that. It's that softer bubble. I don't know. So, like, it would be ice, and then it would be my dogs, of course. That was before Courage Jude existed. So that would have been Faith and Zen. And then like really just cringy stuff like my Louis Vuitton book bag that I brought to rehab. I can't even imagine. I don't even know who is that person. I don't know who they are, but they are so not here anymore. Like it was, you know what I mean? But how all the, however, but it literally saved my life because I was like, in that first probably week, I was like, oh shit. Okay. For me, it brought perspective, and I needed desperately to find some perspective. And so as I work with our community and our clients, I am super mindful to not to share that there's a difference between that toxic positivity, and we can still be grateful even if everything literally is burning down
Mhm.
around us. Um it's just such a simple yet powerful lesson. Okay, I have to jump in this book. So the format, I love. I mean, I love the format of this book, because it is a journal, and I love the a bunch of fucking awesome things about me. List 5 things you like about your personality, 5 things how you want to show up, 5 things you've done that were brave and bold. I love this reflection, this honoring, this acknowledgement, this reflection. Can you tell us a little bit about why is it important for us to like, how is this going to help us? Like, why do we need to do this reflection stuff? Because it's not easy and it can be painful. So why should I walk into the pain with you, alongside you?
I'm gonna, let's just be honest. So the first thing that comes to my head is I think our world, speaking of all the politeness and niceness and all of these systems we live in, teaches us to be fucking cowards.
Mm.
It teaches us to hide behind these identities that are not truly us. It teaches us to hide our emotions. It teaches us to not identify with ourselves, to show up and truly face ourselves. That's the brave. That's, I don't want to say the bravest thing, but it is a really brave thing to do. And with the concept of self-love, especially, or love in general, it's it's such a thing where there's this acceptable idea about what we're allowed to think about ourselves, what we're allowed to acknowledge, and what we're not. And the reality is that like later in the book, there's this whole inventory where we're facing our fuckheadedness. We're real like I am all about that. But but facing and doing inventories on ourselves and checking what the ways that we're shitty done without the same or more recognition of what our beauty is, what our power is, what our sweetness is, it's just abusive to ourselves. And so
Yes.
I think the thing about just going, I am going to be brave enough to admit to myself that I got a nice booty, or
Yes.
like, yeah, my eyes are pretty, or I'm kind of funny sometimes in these certain situations, or I'm a good writer. Like it's even saying that right now, and I'm all about it. I put it in a book. My stomach kind of is like, oh, they're gonna think I
Yeah.
really thought about myself, and then what? And so that's why I think it's important.
I that yes. It's hard. It's hard. And I
Oh,
think that things like this, what I love about the way that you've laid it out, and just your approach in general to your writing, and the products that you create, they are very human. They're not over intellectualizing the process of the inner work. They are, it's like soft, and but soft, cozy, honest, soft and cozy. And like you said, giving us permission to kind of look inside, look at ourselves, all the things that we love, all the things that we would love to maybe enjoy. Lots of good reminders on healthy boundaries, which is literally my, I believe, most important thing that we can do. Okay. You just moved to a new country.
yeah.
So you published a new fucking book and moved to a new country. I am fascinated to hear about the the experience in the context of what you're learning about yourself, making such a big, big change in your
For asking that.
life.
Yeah, I moved to Germany I don't speak German. I yeah, I how would I start this? um, you know, 2021, I was bedridden and was headed to, I was getting, I had a spine issue and I had to have spine surgery. And I had been in excruciating pain for 18 months. And most of my life I've had issues. So I went into this surgery, and then during the surgery, my life fell apart. My life fell apart, quotations, because long-term friendships that I thought I could count on where there's just massive betrayal, and to where I couldn't avoid facing it. And I laid there after so much pain and so much struggle and betrayal and death. You know, I lost quite a few people in 1 year. And then I dreamt about okay, if I fight through this, if I do this, what do I get? And I just kept thinking about Europe. And I kept thinking, like, oh, you know, I've always wanted to like go there and travel around and blah blah blah. And then I have a friend who lives in Berlin, and she was my coaching client at the time, and so for writing, and she also could see that I was struggling, and she does a somatic healing practice called the Pantaray approach. And I was helping her write the book, but she was like, "Why don't you come and take the practitioner training and stay with me?" And so I was like, that seems like legit. So like the second I could get on a long flight, I did. And I moved here at this time where I had really dedicated myself to the things that I believe in. So writing this book, I was writing this book as I was preparing to leave. I was really looking at what are the groundwork for like how I feel like is like I can operate and be the kind of human being I want to be. And that entails being really cracked open for me, especially right now. I also feel like because of the amount of trauma I had, and I have done the trajectory of being in therapy my whole life, I was the poster child for doing it like all right. She's the inspiration. And then my body was freaking out, and I was getting massive migraines and vertigo. And the doctors were telling me like, we don't know, maybe like whatever's happening. And so I just came here and I threw myself into this because I went, something's going on. I deserve to have some peace. And so when I got here, I started with this practice, and it's just been incredibly transformative and sweet, and everything is like an application of all this stuff I believe in. And I started cracking open even more and having this like really tender heart for myself and the world. And so then I moved. I decided, went home. I stayed for 4 months, and then I went home and like boxed everything up and put it in storage and was like out. And then what I've learned from being here is by rebuilding and coming to a different culture, and especially a culture where it's not always obvious that we're from different cultures, right? It's like a bunch of white people in American clothes, they speak English, blah, blah, blah. But being the brand new person here, and I'm like, pushing 50. And so it's not like I'm young, and I'm making friends and I'm engaging in communities, and I am having to notice within myself, like how, like I was just having a conversation about like charm, and I'm like, I don't know if I really vibe with charm anymore. I don't know if I want to be charming. I just want to show up and be authentic and be kind and be generous, and to be like, I don't necessarily like the vibe here. And Germans are helping me with that because they don't do charming.
No,
They
yes, I spent some time in Germany in my old career. And I know what you're saying. Yes.
they find it really disingenuous is what I think. And I am pretty authentically like I'm like, ooh, I want to meet people and talk, and I get kind of rowdy, and I am genuinely interested, so I'll ask a bunch of questions, and I would notice their response, and I'm having to navigate like, no, these are the parts that are really truly who I am. I'm going to compliment you. I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, you're funny, or I really enjoyed that, because I do that. I love it.
Right.
And also, it's really putting into focus how much I do charming in order to feel safe in a community,
Mm.
safe in a relationship. So that's one of the things. It's deeply uncomfortable. I feel like a lot where every time I say something, I'm like, oh, did I really mean that? But it's also really exciting. And it's kind of cool to think about like, oh, I get to go into this next phase of my life with some real clarity, like
I
even more
love that.
clarity and some
That's
kindness and sweetness.
yes. That's so
I'm such
interesting.
a storyteller. You ask me one thing and then I'm like, my spot.
No, I love it. I love it. So we're winding this up. I do have, I know this is a big one. Um and the word advice is, whatever. I'm going to call it advice, wisdom, insight, advice. Kind of what is your current guiding light in the advice wisdom world, like for you?
For myself or what? Oh,
For you.
ooh, that's a good one. Um, that, I'm gonna be so fucking poetic. Um, so in my spiritual AF deck, there's the Rumi quote where it's the wound is where the light enters you. And I've loved that quote for my whole life. I just think it's a great quote. But through the work I've been doing here and in the last few years, I really feel like my guiding thing is the wound is where the light is revealed to you, and it's like the
Mm,
light from inside. Your there's this power and sweetness, and the beauty of how we survive, the beauty of how we continue to show up is revealed through those wounds. And I am not sure it's something that enters me from the outside. And I think that's lately has been my thing. Like I just really am like, there's a beauty inside all of us and it's being revealed. And one of the clearest ways we see it is where we're broken.
mm. I mean, that was kind of a mic drop. I feel like I should hit end at this right now. Wow. Yeah. Where can we find you online, and where can we find your decks and your amazing new book, journal,
Thank you.
activity book and journal?
You're the best. I just want to add too, I hired you for like a one-on-one once and you drastically changed my life. Just
Mm.
made it so it was like, I can do this. I can do this. And then I did it. So uh, I just couldn't end this without telling you that. That I look back on the notes I took and the things that you talked to me about, and it just was like it was. I had been watching YouTube videos forever about social media marketing and business and all of that, I was even a part of your A club, B club, C school, B school. But that hour with you was so amazing. So if anybody is, I don't know if you're still doing it, but it was amazing. Amazing. I still go back to it. You can find
Thank
my
you.
book all over the place. So knockknockstuff.com is the publisher where you can find that. You can find me on Amazon if you look up spiritual AF. If you look up my name, Roxanne McDonald, I'm at Barnes and Noble, Indigo Books, and we're all over the world at this point. With not, I think the book has gotten to. I know people in Germany are getting it from Amazon, so that's a good thing. And then on socials, you can find me all over the place at spiritual_AF. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook mostly.
Roxanne, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I am so happy for you. Congratulations on all of this. Watching you is brings me so much joy. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for joining us.
Thank you
And
for having
thank
me.
you everybody for listening. Be sure to you need this book. I'm just going to say everyone that has any connection to Passion Squared needs this spiritual AF activity book and journal. It is going to speak to your soul. Roxanne, thank you. Everyone, thank you for listening. You can find us on the socials at Passion Squared everywhere. Have a peaceful day, everybody. Bye.